The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised.
Oh man, there's got to be something to listen to on this dial.
This message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere. It is speculated that these objects are of extraterrestrial origin. The broadcast will quiet at this time for your safety.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays as we light the void with Joe Root on Spaced Out Radio.
Ties we had formed, told all the lies to myself, while sleepwalking through it all.
You can follow Joe on Twitter at Lighting the Void, on Facebook at Lighting the Void, and you can call into tonight's show at 501-777-5631. You can also follow Joe at spacedoutradio.com.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as done.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Why don't you talk into the microphone? I got a backup mic right here. Check 1, 2. Testing, testing. Yeah, they both working, and guess what? They don't like no feedback. What's up?
Now, let's fire the show up and light the void on Spaced Out Saturdays with your host, Joe Root.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Saturday. I'm your humble host, Joe Root, and it's good to have you with us. It's great to be here on this lovely Saturday night here in the natural state, May the 9th, on into the 10th. Thank you all for joining us wherever you're listening from. And we got to welcome in our affiliates, WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. Home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, and KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. And that was Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of Spaced Out Radio. You can follow me on Twitter at Lighting the Void as well. Subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. We're also on iHeartRadio in the USA, on TuneIn as well. You can download the shows from iTunes, and, of course, the website is spacedoutradio.com. And if you go to patreon.com for as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radio. Now, if you want to take part in the show, you can sign into one of the chat rooms on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, and on the Facebook page as well at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you're on Twitter, just go to hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and I'll get to your questions there, too. The call-in number when we open the phone lines up is 501-777-5631. I really appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with us last Saturday night. That was really fun. We had kind of a call-in episode, so if you missed that, the archives are free, and you can check that out, too. Don't forget, you can go to the store at Spaced Out Radio, pick up a T-shirt or sticker or a poster. And also Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV and Tim Doyle's UFO Seekers content is on there as well. Now, tonight we're going to be speaking with Marla Freeze. We welcome her back because her new book is out, and it's awesome. And let me tell you a little bit about Marla. As a spiritual psychic coach, she's able to access information that provides truly unique insight to any aspect of a person's life: family, health, work, home, relationships, and even your pets. Now, as an evidentiary medium, Marla facilitates vivid connections to loved ones, hearing what the deceased have to say, feeling their emotions and seeing what they want to show us. Marla refers to spirit as the Holy Spirit and larger consciousness that we call God. Now, this is Marla's divine source of information, inspiration, and guidance. She often receives information about past events as well as what is happening in the present and future. The combination of Marla's unique skills make her work transformational and very effective for those seeking guidance. Now, tonight, we're going to be discussing her book, American Psychic, which is out. And this book goes from the journey from her childhood to Hollywood to her calling as doing what she is today. It also goes into aspects of her life and events that she kept secret and hidden from most, but now revealed through this book, which is awesome. I've read it myself. It's a very moving and powerful story of her journey into becoming an American psychic, and it's #1 on Kindle right now, so that's pretty cool. And you can check out the website at marlafreeze.com. Marla, welcome back to Spaced Out Saturday. It's awesome to have you here.
Hey, thanks, Joe. It's great to be here. Hi, guys.
I'm stoked that your book is out. It's doing really well, which I'm not surprised. It's doing really well, but there are things in there that I talked to you about that I had no idea about you. So yeah, you're right. You did reveal quite a bit in the book.
Yeah. And it's a ride. I mean, if we were to sit down and listen to other people's stories, I mean, we all go through some really crazy shit, but I hope that this book will inspire people to tell their stories, to tell the truth. And in that, it's really healing.
Did you ever have these doubts about any of this stuff, though? I mean, like, we get tons and tons of skeptics on here, and I am also a little bit skeptic when it comes to psychics and stuff like that, but I know you're the real deal. And not just because of, reading your book and talking to you in person, but it's also kind of, after reading the book, I can tell you've had your doubts about it too. But how do you deal with skepticism? I'm just going to start with that right off the bat.
Well, first off, I got to tell you, I was incredibly skeptical. I didn't believe in, talking to the dead, not at all. I had an attitude about it. I mean, when you read the book, you'll understand how that all went down. But I was going to out this very famous psychic medium because I thought it was just a crock. And oh my God, after I watched him, I came home, got down on my hands and knees, and I'm like, I have no idea what these psychic abilities are. And could you please help me with understanding what this dead people business is about? And I got help, and it was extraordinary, and it was amazing. And, it was a con artist that basically gave me the opportunity to talk to a dead person. So that's a pretty interesting story. I was godsmacked. And I think we all have to have compassion for anybody. And if we are, when we are skeptical, I think that's a really healthy thing. But don't be too skeptical or you'll miss a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So miss a lot of fun. Yeah.
I think that I want to learn how to do this kind of stuff. I'm probably never be able to be as good as someone like you, but I think everyone's got this kind of innate ability to tap into consciousness now.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And look what Tom Campbell's out doing now. He's trying to remove skepticism from a scientific point of view. And I've listened to you. You were on a couple of shows with him on YouTube, and it was really cool listening to you guys talk.
Well, he helps me make the paranormal normal. So working with Tom and really being educated with him for the last couple of years, he makes things so, how can I say it without sounding scientific? It's the best PR for God, quite frankly, because he talks about this larger consciousness system. And just imagine, all right, and this is really great for people who are skeptical about, talking to dead people or even accessing, psychic stuff. Imagine that this larger consciousness that we call God is so benevolent that it wants us to connect to the data or the information stream of deceased loved ones, or give us information that is for our highest good. It might be a medical thing. It might be something about your car, but that it can happen is truly amazing.
Now, do you remember the first time that it happened to you? Can you talk about that at all without, I don't want to give the book away, but just how you came into it for the first time? Well,
I will tell the audience how this dead people thing happened. I brought a con artist into my life, not knowing right then and there that he was a con artist. He was a cute little barista boy that worked at a coffee shop down the street. And he had tried to give me a present. And as soon as he handed it to me, my stomach flipped. And I thought, this is really strange. Something's happening inside my body. I'm buzzing. And I said, no, I really can't take it. I just don't feel I should accept this gift. And I heard, well, it's not yours to begin with. And I thought, where's that? And it sounded like a woman's voice. And then I thought, oh my God, am I going mad? Is it, what did I eat last night? But as he walked away, I heard, why don't you check out that house that he says that he's trying to buy? And I did. I went to the street. I looked at the house that there was only one house this barista boy could possibly buy. And I found mail, and it didn't have his name on it. And I called the names that were on the mail, and there was a woman who answered the phone, and she said, well, those people were my parents, and they died. And I said, well, isn't there somebody trying to buy the house? Or she said, no, it's not for sale. But we did have a man who came in and squatted in the house and took my parents' belongings.
Really?
And I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. I've got to get this barista boy out of my life. And so I ended up going to law enforcement, and this guy stalked me, and my antennas blew out of my head, and I started talking to dead people. That's how it started.
Now, did you just immediately start trusting that voice, or were you kind of skeptic the whole way through?
Are you kidding me? I was crazy. I was like, I went to everybody, Joe. I went to clergy. I went to therapists.
Clergy, right.
Clergy, yes, every kind of clergy, therapists, a number of therapists, and then, you know who helped me make sense of this? The U.S. military psychic spies, Lynn Buchanan. I went to a course with him, and he completely set my mind at ease. He gave me confidence. He helped me understand what these men and women who were in this covert operation between the 60s and the 90s were actually doing. And thank God for that.
God, that reminds me of the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. I'm sure you've seen that movie, right? With George Clooney?
Yes. Well, actually, the character George Clooney is a combination of Lynn Buchanan and another guy. So when I interviewed Lynn on Unknown Country's Dreamland about Lynn's book, and we were talking about the movie, he said that 85% of that movie is true.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sure except for the goat part, right? But that was a funny movie. You think the goat part was real?
Yes, it was.
Wow. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's no telling what's really going on. You know, after talking to you and Whitley and Tom Campbell, I'm a changed man. I think you three have really changed me on this one, to be honest with you.
Well, both of those men changed my life too. It was many, many years ago. I think it was, when Whitley's book came out. I was working as an actress, and I was at the Cleveland Playhouse, and I spent my equity days off floating around on a little boat in the middle of a lake out there in Cleveland, reading Whitley's book, Communion. And I thought to myself, oh my God, if this is true, I hope to God I meet this man someday. And that was 87 and 97. I had my first UFO sighting. And then in 2007, I met Whitley and Ann. And it was extraordinary. And we became friends, and they invited me to be their psychic medium expert on Dreamland. And thank God, because it opened up my wheelhouse to meeting so many of these incredible people that I interviewed. And the education from all of that is, well, I'm here with you today.
Where do you think that you got to... So do you do this full time now? This is what you do besides, sell the book, obviously. You've been doing real good with that. But, I mean, this is what you do now, right? This is your life calling.
You mean, did I give up my day job as an actress for 25 years?
Yeah,
yes.
Because I watched some of those clips, and you were really good at it. You're a very good actress.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I left acting in 2002. I surrendered to this work, and yes, I do privates all over the world, and I love doing groups, small groups, and I just had a celebratory book event at Vitello's here in Los Angeles, where there were 80 people in the room, and I kind of read the room. So yes, I like doing larger groups too. So yeah, this is the work that I do. It's my calling.
So if I came up to you, and I'm not asking you to do a reading, obviously, does it matter? Well, does it matter if they have to be close to you, right? Isn't that how it works? Like they have to be near you where you can touch them, or do you have to be able to see in their eyes, or how does it work?
You're so cute. I work all over the world. I work audio Skype.
Oh, okay.
I'm not looking at somebody's eyes. I'm not sitting beside them. No, not at all. But here's the thing about my work. You know, I call myself transformational as a psychic medium because of the background that I've had around having 25 years of therapy and 18 years of life coaching. And having worked as an actress, I see, feel, and hear in a different way. I mean, there's so many talented mediums out there that do various different things, but my work is really about giving people information for their highest good. So when I work with someone, part of that intention before we even, start talking is for them to pray, meditate, and intention information for their highest good. Because I don't think that this work is a dog and pony show. I'm not trying to impress anybody with my work. I'm trying to help somebody. And there's no reason for me to do this work unless it's going to help somebody.
Yeah, definitely. And when I've seen you do your work, some of the examples that you have online, it really, it seems like the emotions just kind of take over. And it seems like you're really good at, because if that was happening to me, I would try to block it. I don't know why, but if I'm about to cry or get real emotional, I'd try to block it. But you're really good at just, I mean, I guess you have to. You just got to kind of let that stuff go through you.
Well, Joe, I think the point is, and about dead people, this is the dead people conversation, I'm actually feeling their emotion. So I'm a conduit, I'm a bridge, I'm a channel to give someone sitting in front of me or, on a Skype call, give the information of the deceased loved one and how they're feeling, how they are processing. And one of the reasons that I love doing this work is because I get to feel the love. I do get to feel the upset sometimes and the grief and the missing of their loved ones, but I get to feel the love.
Right. So it's not like that show Legion. I don't know if anybody's watched that, where the guy just walking around in a crowd and he can hear all these voices, or Ghost. You know how it was with Whoopi Goldberg, where she's just hearing all these people. You kind of got to tap into it a little bit. I'm sorry I'm getting into the semantics of this. I'm just interested.
No, I love it because I actually feel as though there is a Whoopi Goldberg element to this work. When this started with me, it was the floodgates opened, and it was a mess. It was a shitstorm for a while,
right?
Because I really had to figure out what was going on. But now, I have boundaries, and I don't go where I'm not invited. And sometimes, I am pushed into dynamics that are pretty unique in order for me to give people information. But we've got to have boundaries. Each person that is listening tonight, I'm sure, have empathic qualities inside of them, or they wouldn't be talking to you. They wouldn't be curious about everything that this show does. But the empathic abilities really do tap into all different aspects of psychic functioning, which is mediumship and intuition and clairvoyance and dreams. All of that stuff is basically psychic functioning. But we've got to have boundaries around this. We've got to learn boundaries.
How far do you got to stay? Like, you do a daily prayer and meditation practice? Because I find that I've wanted to do, like, I've had out-of-body experiences and stuff like that, and they don't come back unless and they have recently, and that's because I guess I could say I've tapped into more of my spiritual nature. So I think, like, I'm just going to ask you this. These abilities kind of, I would think they enhance when you do some type of daily ritual or practice or meditation or prayer, right?
Well, these abilities are enhanced when you heal the wounds inside of you, when you work on making sure that you're in right resonance with yourself. And, anyone who has the intention to learn something more around this realm can study with lots of different people. But it is the intention of why? Why do you want to do this? And oftentimes I think that the excitement of being able to see things or hear things in a psychic or mediumship way, that's kind of fun, but it truly is, as you said, about tapping in, and it's connection to source.
That's how you view, well, how do you view, like, religion? Because I've lost family members doing this show. Not really lost them, but they don't really talk to me anymore. And, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be real here. But the thing about it is I'm talking to you. I think you're very special and very talented. I mean, I will put my word on this if any of you guys trust me on this one. But my own family would say, well, you're doing a radio show about witchcraft and you're talking to a necromancer, And it's like you have to be extremely productive in the results that you do for people to get them to change. Or am I wrong about that? To even get them to think that maybe they're wrong about all this dogma and stuff?
Well, I don't want to make anybody wrong about their belief systems, but look, I grew up in the heartland of Pennsylvania, and there's probably more churches in town than there are bars. And maybe I'm wrong about that. I need to look into that.
A lot of bars there too, yeah.
Yeah. But I think the nature of the organized religion in our Judeo-Christian country, this country was founded on people who were persecuted for religious beliefs, and they came over here, right? So I think it's a little hypocritical for us to be running around sort of chiding other people about their belief systems. I was raised in a Lutheran church, and I actually became a born-again Christian when I was in my teens. And right after that happened, I had this horse accident, and I believe God or Jesus or the voice that came to me at that time saved my life. And that was the way that I needed to contain this information. But I've gone all over the world, and I've talked with many people, and I do believe in my heart of hearts that if Jesus was Jesus, he would save everyone. And that we don't need to be card-carrying club members into any particular church. It is the church of God, and it is the church of the light of Christ. And I think that people get frightened when they don't understand things. But the Bible, of course, is filled with prophecy and vision and all of those incredible things. But we get stuck in the semantics of literacy, Bible literacy. And there's just no way that I can be a very literate within that context.
So you follow the golden rule, right? Basically,
yeah,
love.
I'm a golden rule person, but I also believe that, look, I think that God keeps talking to us. So he didn't stop talking to us after the Bible was finished.
Right.
And we all get guidance, and there's tons of teachers around that have other things for us to learn that are extrapolations of the Christ light or the consciousness that came through to give us that information in the Bible. So I don't mind that people are skeptical, and if they need to, be angry or negative about something that I'm doing, it's not about me changing that. It's about me telling them, listen, I had judgment, I had opinions, I had bigotry. I grew up with a very bigoted, racist, abusive mother. I had to grow and change. I had to heal. And I'm only interested in unity. And of course, I'm very accepting of people who have different ideas about this. But if they come with hate, then I'm just not interested.
I get that too. I think it's all the same thing. I've heard it been called, Christ, consciousness, pranayama, chi, light, LVX, Luke, all kind, Holy Spirit, everything under the sun.
Everything.
Right,
And, in the book, when I go through a divorce, and one of my friends had asked me, well, what does God say? What do your angels say? What are your, what are the guidance systems that you're working with? What are they saying? And I basically said, I was so tired, and I said, oh, thems, oh, thems. And I was laughing, and I heard, well, thems are all here. And I heard the way that I hear things. Well, Marla, if you're going to call us thems, you have to know what that stands for. The heavenly eternal messaging system. And I thought that was a very lovely, sort of charming acronym. But this is exactly, it's how we hold it in our hearts and in our minds, and holding the hope and the consciousness of expanding what this is, because we've been going through some tricky times here. Yeah,
for sure. Somebody just realized that you were in Married with Children in the chat room. That was a great episode, by the way.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it's an internet favorite, where Peg Bundy gets to beat me up. It's so great.
Yeah. You're very, I don't know, you're funny. You are definitely a light worker. Anybody that, you don't have to be around you to feel your energy. Anybody can listen to you and watch your content, read your book, and see that you're living your purpose. It's very inspiring, I got to tell you.
Well, thanks, Joe. And, the book is really, wow, it's the greatest thing I've ever done.
Do you think it helped? Is it a part of your healing, writing that book?
Oh, yeah. I loved writing the book. But, somebody was asking me today, well, what was your structure in writing the book? And I was like, oh, my God, I sat down and I just wrote what I heard. Now, of course, they're my stories, but I was really inspired. And the way that they came in, the stories came in like movies. So I really wrote what I heard, and I have lots of really deep old memory about some things. So I could see them as a movie, and I wrote about them.
That's incredible. Now I'm interested in this. I don't want to leave this yet. I'm incredibly skeptic about secret programs, secret government programs, and things of that nature. But you're saying that it's real, and now that if you're saying it's real, I'm going to take your word for it. I believe you. I have to now. And
well, let's take a little look at that for a second.
Sure.
What are you referring to?
Well, there's narratives out there, but there's about, actually, I want to say 3 or 4 different secret space program narratives. And then it's just so confusing listening to all the different stories about what the government's actually doing and stuff. But it really does seem like, after reading your story, that, not everybody in the government's bad, and they're just kind of testing this stuff out too,
Well, actually, I don't write really about anything in the book regarding that. The only thing that I reference,
you bring it up though,
I bring it up a little bit, but I think the dynamic is, I personally, other than the remote viewers, the U.S. military psychic spy people, those people I believe are teaching us aspects of what was covert within the government at one point in time, but they're teaching it to lay people.
Gotcha.
There are things that I understand are going on, but because I've not been in them myself, I don't think that I could say, oh, well, yes, Joe, I really need to tell you that this is happening, there's lots of people talking about this. And I think that just for the sake of being curious instead of being too skeptical is to take a look at the possibility of, some of these things are happening, and not necessarily to bristle against them and to have, judgment about them, but be more curious than anything. Like, isn't it interesting? I mean, I think about the movie Contact and John Hurt, the actor who played the guy with all the money who was doing different things in other countries and spending lots of money in order for this space experience for Jodie Foster to go out there and have this experience. That kind of stuff is happening. I mean, look at Elon Musk, what is happening with that. But I can't really speak to the covert stuff that everybody gets all conspiracy theoried out. There's a lot of great people like Linda Moulton Howe that can handle that, and that's just not my wheelhouse.
Yeah, you're more into the healing aspect of things for sure. Mm-hmm. You're a healer. That's what I've noticed about it. That's just I'm a curious person, Marla, and I've questioned so many things. And I don't know if that's actually a good thing, because sometimes I'd wrap myself around the chain thinking about all this stuff.
Well,
a lot of people just want you to believe it just because they say it, All
right. Well, give me something. Let's talk about this. And I'm sure that your listeners will be curious to hear one of the things that you have doubts about or deep curiosity.
I have doubts about the government is, and this is going to shake some people up, but I have doubts about that the government is in contact with extraterrestrial beings, especially of a kind, and I'm not meaning grays, but all of these different races they're coming up with, and this huge backstory of all these different races of intergalactic beings, and they know their names, and they know what they look like, and it's just, when you try to get down to the proof of it, the only thing that you can do, and just saying proof rattles some people, it really, for some reason, that just bothers people. I don't know why. But when you try to investigate and be a journalist about it, all you get is, well, we've got insiders, That's it.
Yeah, it's always good to have some sort of concrete proof. And, working with Tom Campbell and understanding physical matter reality and also the non-physical matter reality, it's quite wonderful when we have the ability as humans to access non-physical matter reality and have an experience that is so real that our lives are changed. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be on a piece of paper in front of us, but once we have had that experience, we can certainly write about it.
Sure. Have you ran into any extraterrestrial beings in your psychic adventures?
Well, Joe, yes, I have. That might be book number 2.
That's incredible. See, I want to hear that. See, I know. It's not that I don't believe it. I just want to know what's real about it. And it's, like even Daniel Joseph, who I'm going to talk to him next week. He doesn't focus on that. And I can understand that, because he feels like, well, if I focus on this, people are going to give in to the awe and the, all of this other stuff that's not really focusing on healing the planet or raising consciousness. It's more about the interesting and entertaining effects of these things.
All right. Well, let's think about it this way. It's consciousness, right? I mean, there's got to be a lot of consciousness out there. We have consciousness here on this earth that we can actually see. But if I'm accessing the data, let's go science on this. If I'm accessing the data stream, if I'm accessing information in the consciousness, that means that we can access deceased loved ones, pets, other beings that are trying to communicate with us, who have been here, whether that's angelic forces or, anything that is odd might be considered alien. But people are encountering, and they're dictating, and they're getting information that on some level might be considered proof if there is a timeline to it, if there is information that is relevant and helpful. And sometimes, with some of these things, it's people get wrapped up around it because they do want something different other than the ideology that we've been raised with. They do want expansion in consciousness. They do want to know that there is possibly something out there that is helping us in some way. And then there's another group of people, of course, that think the opposite of that.
You hit the nail on the head. And I just want to know, because it would be cool, to know. But I've been brought up to believe, and not just to believe in anything. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just how I was raised. But then again, some of those people.
What do you mean by that?
Well, some of those people that raised me don't believe in some of the stuff I talk about now.
Well, those people haven't had an experience. If they were out in the middle of the desert with a Russian night vision 2 goggle or telescope, and they saw a craft, they might do what I did, end up in a bar. I mean, that's what happened to me in 1997. I was out there and I didn't believe in that stuff at all. I wasn't interested in UFOs. I was making fun of it. I was in a van with James Van Praagh and a bunch of other people. And I was like, oh, how is this going to happen? We're going to contact them with tin cans and a string. I had such an attitude.
Yeah.
And oh my God, life-changing. So once people have an experience that changes their belief system, they're changed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I told everybody, too, if I met a blue alien, I would probably tell everybody. I don't care if they believed me or not. I would probably run around and tell everybody,
Well, some of these things that people are talking about, they speak about them in ways that are so real and convincing, and that is their experience.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great if we had more physical experience around this. And actually, I am involved in a project that I hope we will make live, so to speak, within the next year or two, that has physical matter reality connected to it.
I love you so much just for being that way. You have no idea. Because you see the importance of it. You see, when I bring this up, people, they get offended, like it's a disbelief thing. It's not a disbelief thing. I'm into changing paradigms too. And I think there's a way to do that. There's a way to do that. Of course, we've all had our own experiences. I've had too. But I would love to shake things up the real way. And to know that people are involved with that. And for sure, Tom Campbell's involved with it, and I know that he's trying to do that. I know he's putting his life into doing it, and I know you are too, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, what's so great about Tom? I mean, anybody that does not know Tom Campbell, you can go to YouTube, and there's probably over 500 hours of free educational information. And he has just done this incredible Kickstarter program because he's got some experiments that he needs to fund. That Kickstarter program, he's raised $200,000.
Yeah.
And that's because of the people who know the merit of what he's been doing for years, that have gone to YouTube and listened. They are kicking back, so to speak. They are helping him start these experiments because they are giving back to this man who's given so much to them.
Yeah, and he's extremely intelligent. So you got one of the most extremely intelligent men on the face of the planet telling you that our paradigm is not what we think it is. I mean, most of the people in his field wouldn't even touch that, but he's all about it. Now, I really believe that he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it. We might actually be alive right now and witness a man and his team prove this beyond the shadow of a doubt. I think that might actually happen with him.
Well, I'm hoping that it does. But, people like to be stuck in their ideas. A lot of the science community, brilliant people. But around this whole non-physical matter reality business, they're not going there. the materialism. They really love to be able to prove things over and over and over again, repeat the pattern, repeat this, document it, etc. But the dynamic of things like, I really like to shut this whole thing down or blow it up by basically saying, prove love.
Right. That's an experience everybody should have. But it's sad there are people alive that really haven't had it.
You mean love?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are we talking about? I mean, most people love something, whether it's an animal, money, there's a love of a person, but there's something that happens inside of them that makes them love something. And I think most people have that kind of context around it. I mean, I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't love something. But, maybe I need to travel more.
Well, I'm talking about, say, for instance, children and things like that. I mean, I know everybody's loved something and everybody's had an experience and et cetera. But what I mean is there are people born onto this planet simply to only understand suffering. That's it. That's why they were here. And it's not, and those types of things you have to wonder, okay, you have a soul, right? You were born as this child. But you were born into suffering, disease, and hunger, and then you died. All right, so what was that soul journey? What did you learn?
Well, good question. Actually, I talk about a couple of these experiences in the book because when I started going to the Monroe Institute in 2010, I was taking a number of different programs. And, in the book, it's sort of cohesed into a short amount of time, but it was really things over a three-year period. There were a couple of times when I accessed past life. I accessed parts of myself that I didn't understand. I accessed dynamics that I had to learn for my soul's growth. And one of them happened to be, I think I was a child in a place like Somalia. And I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And my stomach was distended. And I was desperate for food. And a hand came down and fed me some sort of, excuse me, grainy, watery. It looked like it could be flour, but it was grainy and it was yellow and it had some liquid to it. But a hand came down and fed me that. And I remember being able to have a conversation with a consciousness that was showing me this, and I was feeling this. And I knew as this child that I was going to die. I knew that as the sun came around into the area where I was sitting that was in the shade, that I was probably going to die. And I remember tasting that, knowing that that was possible, that I could eat, knowing that I was dying. It was such interesting combination of emotions. And I was asking consciousness, why do I have to experience this? Right. And the information was basically, all humans must know what it's like to suffer. And I believe, after having many, many experiences, that we have recycled, come back over and over and over again. And I do believe that every time we live, we engender the experience into our soul, into this emotional DNA that we take back to source.
Yeah, so it's not just a concept. You can actually live the experience, right? I mean, all of the things, jealousy, love, hunger, fulfillment, happiness, all of it. You get to live it instead of it just being a concept. I agree with you. I think that's what's going on too.
Well, there's another thing in the book that I detail where I think I'm in Nazi Germany, or I'm in a camp. I'm just in a concentration camp. And I'm a younger girl, and I'm on a gurney, and I'm tied down. And the doctor and nurse that are in there the doctor comes to me and tells me, I'm going to put something in your arm that will either make you very sick or it will kill you. And I could feel my consciousness going into him, and I could feel how he felt about me, his disgust, his anger, or his hate toward me. And then I would be myself again, or this young girl, excuse me. And then I would go back into his consciousness. So I was literally feeling what he could feel and what I could feel. And I basically said to him as this young girl, you don't need to do this. I'm you. You are me. And then I could feel my consciousness leaving my body because I was dying. And I didn't feel what happened to my arm. I just knew that I was leaving. And as I was leaving, I said to him, your hate will not destroy my love.
Wow.
And I know that I took from that experience that emotional, riveting experience that no one can ever shake from me. Your hate of me will not destroy my love.
That's so cool. I mean, it's not cool that that happened to that girl, but it is. It's cool that you experienced that.
Well, think about it. Why in the hell do we go through what we go through? And we go through it because we don't learn from our big successes. We learn from our trials and our tribulations. Loss, in the book, I talk about this a lot. Loss is the game changer that resets our life. Loss of money, loss of love, loss of home, our health.
Yeah.
It resets us. Because I believe this consciousness wants to keep giving to us.
If you just let it. I've noticed that too. If you get out of the way and let it do its thing instead of doubting it all the time, it'll do it. It's really crazy.
Well, we have a lot of weird things that happen to us. We are born with these strange vibrations that come from both sets of parents. We have DNA in us that's a little wonky. We are imbued in the uterus by our mother's anxiety. We pop out and we've got all this stuff that we've got to deal with.
How did you know that? Because I had the anxiety thing. It just, sorry to stop you there, but that kind of triggered me a little bit. My mother had extreme anxiety issues, and I carried on that trait. I actually had bad anxiety issues up into my 20s.
Right. Well, part of that is your struggle to heal that so that your consciousness can handle it. I mean, when people read the book, and some of it's pretty challenging what I went through, they will see their own lives and they will think about what they've gone through, and they will remember how they've survived it, and they're here today to still talk about it. And it will empower them to go, oh my God, I've gone through this, and Marla's gone through that, and look at how we are, and we've survived this. And there's a part of us that gets empowered and becomes fearless, at least for a certain amount of time, knowing that we can heal this stuff if we choose it.
Well, what do you think one of the hardest readings that you ever did that was hard to get through? I'm just thinking about some of the things you might have actually had to tell somebody, there's great stories to be told right from the other side, I'm sure, but I bet some of it's pretty hard to convey. And, I could think of maybe if I passed away, some of the things I'd want to tell my son on the other side, and maybe some of it's not so pretty.
Well, there are a number of times when people come in and want to apologize.
Right.
Every time I work, it's really benevolent. There's something that happens where I'm able to hear information and, it's the way that I can hear it and also be gentle about giving that information to someone. But I can feel the emotion. So I try to explain the emotion. And I'll give you an example. I was sitting with a very sweet, lovely woman a few years ago. And what I saw when this was happening, because the dead give me movies inside my head, things that are not my memories. You know, just to give an example for the listeners, I mean, you did something for breakfast, right? You can think of how you got up and you went in the kitchen and how you talked to somebody on the phone and all of that. Well, if you were a dead person and you wanted me to know that, I would see that stuff in my head. It's not my memory. It's not what was going on in my life at breakfast time. So the deceased often give me things to see. And what was happening in this situation was I saw a very dark room with a mattress. And it looked like a house that really hadn't been lived in. And I was told by this deceased person that he was really, really sorry for taking her in there. And I knew what had happened, but I had to relay the information, and she knew exactly what I was talking about. Every time she would go on vacation to her cousin's place, one of the older boys would take her into this sort of, I guess it was I don't know, it wasn't a shack, but it was a rundown, maybe it was a side house or a guest house. And he would take her in there. He would take her upstairs to where that mattress was. And at that moment, she was reliving that experience. And of course, she was very disturbed. But the point was that it was an opportunity for her to take a look at this. And she went back into therapy and did some work on it. But the idea that consciousness would give us this opportunity for the perpetrator to apologize. And he explained some of the wounding that happened in his life too, but that he was incredibly grievous. And that's possibly why that connection between this woman and I met. I mean, that was basically part of the dynamic of telling her that, which was the session.
I bet that was hard, but you had to, right? Like that's what you got to do it. Do you feel like I can't just let this go? I have to do this.
Well, I usually tell people when they're working with me that, once again, you know, information that's coming in is for your highest good. And sometimes information that comes in, there is something that is of a healing quality. You know, there are a lot of parents out there, and there are a lot of perpetrators out there that get to the other side. And I got to tell you, one of the things I've learned about talking to the dead is that the dead have to bear witness to what they've done.
I was going to ask you about that. I was going to wait till the second part of the show, but
okay, we can wait 5 more minutes.
Yeah, but I was always wondering about that, because you read about that, you know, the Hall of Records, or I had to see all the things I'd done, or I had to experience what I actually did to other people, how they felt when I did those types of things. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh man, you know, if I have to experience every effect that I've done on someone, whether it be good or bad, I need to be a little bit more, if everybody knew that for a fact, you know what I mean? Like, wouldn't we be a little more careful how we treat people?
It's not, hell is not a place that God throws you. I think that hell is a mental construct.
Right.
And when we tap into that database, you know, we can catch somebody in the prime of their life, and we can also pull up the piece of information that really wreaked havoc on this earth. And both sides of the veil need to heal from that.
Yeah, I can
and
see
that is actually, that's the culmination of my book.
Do we get to choose, though, like our next incarnation, or should someone choose it for us?
You know what? I've had various experiences with that. You know, there was one time when I was at Monroe, and we were at at what we would call the planning center in a meditation, where we were being shown how this was all happening. And that's one of the exercises that was done there. And I laughed because I saw it as chutes and ladders, like people were coming down in chutes, and I was laughing, and I'm sure that was just a way of looking at some of this stuff. But I think that I came back, at least this time, kind of begrudgingly. I was like, oh my God, do I have to come back and do this again? But I signed my papers and I came, and I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I did.
Well,
we're here in extraordinary,
like an interpretation of what happened, or that really happened.
Well, my experience was really real when I was regressed by Brian Weiss. That was a real experience. But I do want to say, we are here at this extraordinary time in our lives. I mean, this is an amazing time to be alive. It's an amazing time to be in this consciousness and exploring all of these things and pushing through and trying to get to the other side of the truth. We're here. We're here for this. And this very well may be part of this whole disclosure idea.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to take
I have to cough, too.
That's okay. We're going to take our first break, and I'm going to get into some questions, some stuff that happened with me. We'll take your questions and phone calls if you got any questions in the chat room as well. And we'll be right back with author and psychic Marla Freeze. Don't go anywhere.
They stop counting by the last mile.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at UFOseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together we own the night.
The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. This is Spaced Out Saturdays with host Joe Roop. You can follow Joe on Twitter at Lighting the Void. And if you want to call into tonight's show, dial 501-777-5631. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, from the deep south of Arkansas, here is Spaced Out Saturday host Joe Roop.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Saturday. Thank you, Bob, very much. I am your host, Joe Roop. We are live on spacedoutradio.com and the Fringe FM. If you're just joining us, thank you so much. We're here with psychic and author Marla Fries, and her new book, American Psychic, is out. Fantastic book, and thank you again for joining us, Marla. I love this conversations. I think you're doing great work. I know I said that at the beginning of the show, but you guys got to get this book. It's the #1 on Kindle right now, and it's one of the best stories I've ever read and even talked about with you when it comes to becoming a psychic and becoming who you are. So I really appreciate you spending time with us in this late Saturday night.
Oh, my God, I'm thrilled. And I want to tell your listeners that I've got a great gift for you guys. This is the best free gift I could give you. So Gaia, you know Gaia, the on-demand streaming programming that is, it's just like Netflix, but it's actually to raise your consciousness.
Right.
So Gaia has partnered with me on the launch of this book to give anybody that has bought my book on Amazon 2 free weeks of Gaia on streaming. I mean, that's like 8,000, programs. They can listen to David Wilcock, and they can
it's
listen to
full of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
There's
George
tons
Noory.
of stuff in there.
There's tons of stuff there. And so if you buy my book on Amazon, you go to American-psychic.com, American dash like a hyphen, psychic.com, where you'll go to a landing page for Gaia and Marla, and you can redeem your free gift of 2 free weeks of Gaia. It's pretty incredible.
Well, that's a good place for you to get your name out there, too, because there's a lot of shows on there. I still have my subscription, and I don't watch every show on there because for my own reasons, but there are a few shows on there that I really like, and some of the movies on Gaia that you can't really get on Netflix or anywhere else, like the movie about Gurdjieff, which is really good, is on there, and other stuff that's on there too.
Yeah, it's great. And George Noory, I did George Noory's Beyond Belief late last fall, and I had a great time. It was really a well-produced show, so people can see that. But this is an amazing gift, American-psychic.com.
By the way, if you guys want to call in, I will open up the phone lines. It's 501-777-5631. There's been so many questions go by the chat room. I'm trying to scroll back and ask the questions for you. But if I miss you can call in at 501-777-5631 and ask any question you'd like. But I believe where we left off, Marla, was when people pass away, the kind of things that they have to go through, and do they get to choose? And you were kind of talking about that before we went to break.
Well, I want to open up give some more room around the idea of deceased people. I want to explain it in the way that Tom Campbell would sort of talk about it, from the standpoint of consciousness. When we stop framing it as though we keep seeing deceased people, it's not that, because of course, when the body dies, the consciousness, you can't see the body. Sometimes there's an apparition. Sometimes it does manifest itself, but there's movement to this consciousness that continues on. So I'm fascinated with that. I'm really still, I keep learning about this consciousness, this deceased connection. I keep learning that we can still access people all the way back for a long time, because on some level, we don't necessarily know the time frame about reincarnation. I know that there was a young man who was killed in a drug deal gone bad when I was in high school, and I tried to access him probably, a couple of years ago. I couldn't find him. And I think that happens to be something around the causality of reincarnating. And Tom and I talk about this a lot, where the consciousness is no longer the consciousness that we knew in this lifetime. It's moving on to something else. And I find that fascinating. I'm still studying all of it.
Well, another thing that I'm wondering if you've ran across is like, from the works of, and I'll bring it back to the Monroe work because I really believe in that, that a lot of these people that pass away don't have a clue that they're dead. It's like something happens to their consciousness where they don't realize that they're dead. And I'm just wondering, it seems like some of them are stuck like that. I mean, do they get stuck that way?
Well, yeah, there have been people that I've run into like that. A year or two ago, I had Bill Buellman on Dreamland. I interviewed him about his book, Higher Self Now. And Bill and his wife, this book is incredible, by the way. I think that it's one of the best books for changing the idea around death. His wife is a death doula, so to speak, and they've had lots of experiences, having been, done a lot of out-of-body experience with Monroe, and Bill is well known for all of this. But they're teaching a way to prepare for this, to get your consciousness ready for releasing. And I think that just us knowing that is helpful to all of our loved ones. We can talk about it and be prepared for it. I recently had a woman who was in the process of dying, and I was in another room, and I was checking in with her higher self. I heard her oversoul say, "It'll be 5 days from now. We'll be ready to get back together in 5 days." And I was blown away by that. That there is another form of the consciousness waiting for that part of us to get back.
You know, I got to agree with you about William Buellman too, because I've talked to him as well, but I've also read his books and taken his courses. You know, I didn't have my first out of body experience until I used his material, but listening to him talk about consciousness and the structures and belief realms and all of these different things changed my life. And to know that now he's put all of this work and all of his teachings and learnings into helping people move on is really special. You know, that can't be an easy work, but that's what his focus is. It seems right now, it seems like, and that's awesome.
Yep. Doesn't anybody want to talk to us?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes my phone don't work, but seriously.
Are there any questions?
There are. I've been trying to scroll through them to catch them, but I want to pay attention to conversation too. Just to be honest with you, I'm not very good at looking at 4 different chat rooms. I kind of like staying in the conversation, but the thing about it is, though, you know what the common denominator of all this is, and I hate to say it because I don't want to put it around one person because it's so much bigger than that, but what the Monroe Institute has done and the people that are around it have really changed me and changed my life, you know.
Well, you're just going to have to go, Joe.
Yeah, I got to. Ramon, Ramon, he's one of your followers too. He helped us meet.
Yes,
for the first time.
Ramon.
He actually is. I think he's already been up there and he's met Tom and everything. And he's telling me the same thing. You know, you got to go up there and do it. And I've got some of the programs here at home and I've listened to it, and it's been pretty effective. But you really got to commit to it. And I think that's the difference between trying to do it at home and going up there and doing a retreat, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, people always ask me, well, how do you calm down? Where do you go? You know, where do you go on vacation? I don't go on vacation. I go to Monroe, and I love being there for 5 days in an immersive program where I'm there to learn, and I'm there to be with other people who are interested in learning too. And it's an incredible opportunity to be with like-minded people, to get up in the morning. There's yoga, you're up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and you are fed 3 meals a day by these incredible home cooking girls, and to go in to these immersive. These immersive, wonderful meditations that are guided, that have to do with the particular course that you're taking. And then we come back into the room and we debrief and we go back and do more. And then we have lunch, and we have a number of hours in the afternoon where we can hike the mountain. We can go to the lake. We can talk with other friends. But the dynamic of this is, the intention is to expand our consciousness. And where else can you go in a structured environment where you can have expanded states of consciousness without the use of drugs and come out of that experience bigger, stronger, better, more aware? I just don't know any other place that's like this.
Well, I've definitely got to go. I got to go up there. 778 area code. You're on the air with Marla Freeze.
How you doing there, Joe? It's Bill Hauser calling.
What's up, Bill?
Just taking it easy tonight. I have a question for your guest. I think it would be quite appropriate for her to try to see if she can answer it in a way. Is what I'd like to know, is there an actual code of the dead in the sense of communications, where they can go with it and how they can?
What do you mean by code, Bill? Give me an idea.
Well, like a code of ethics. So basically, the rules of the dead, I've been told by some people, where they're only allowed to tell you only so much. Is that, how do you feel about that?
Well, Bill, it's my experience that they tell me what they can tell me. I've never had anyone say to me, I can't tell you more. As I've said before, when I'm working with someone, the intention that I've set, and also the person that has come to work with me, is information for your highest good. So if there is a deceased person that comes in, I'm just listening to what they're giving me. I've never had a deceased person say, I can't tell you anymore.
Okay, so they're allowed to have a certain amount of openness and communication with the living, in other words.
From my experience, yes. However, along those lines, Bill, I have had deceased people that weren't necessarily allowed to communicate at the time, that some other person was speaking for them. And that was possibly because they were still in a transitionary period, and they, for whatever reason, and it was never told to me why, but they were not in the experience to communicate, but that someone else was speaking for them. There's actually a really good story in the book about that, because there was a man that had murdered someone, but he had not been processed somehow. That's the terminology I believe that they used. But there, after prayers and forgiveness, he came through probably 6 months later, talking up a storm. So there might be something to this idea, Bill, that you're referring to regarding some form of ethics, regarding a process for deceased loved ones.
Huh. Okay, that makes sense.
I'd never heard of that before, that there was some type of code or something like that. That's the first time I've ever heard of it.
Bill?
Yes.
Are you gonna buy my book?
Well, you never know. I might just do that now after you've explained that.
Yeah. Well, the story is about Randy, and it's an incredible story, and it's one of deep forgiveness and healing for an entire family. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's very interesting.
Well, thank you, Bill. Thanks so much for your question.
Thanks for calling, brother.
Okay, you guys have a good night.
You
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye now.
Bill Hauser, everybody.
I like his voice. I like his voice.
He's got a good voice. He does he does ghost box sessions where, the EVPs
Oh, right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, actually he came on the show one time and I thought I heard my mother's voice. So I actually recorded the sound wave and played it back quite a few times, and it was definitely her. It tripped me up.
Well, I want to acknowledge Bill for doing that, because I think that all of this work, all of this exploration that makes the non-physical reality real to us in some way is great.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was going to ask you. Have you ever, I didn't ask you this before, but I am curious, have you ever had like an out-of-body experience other than the visions and things like that?
You know what? I think that because of the trauma in my childhood, and I was dissociating, I was leaving, my astral part would leave. I worked really hard in order to get us back together. So I'm not interested in popping out of my body.
Really?
No, I'm not. I'm interested in being physical here and working to build that bridge between the other side and here. However, I will tell you that when I've been to Monroe, I've had experiences where I've gone into other solar systems, into planets and star systems. So whether you want to call that bilocation, but your brain snaps. You can go anywhere. It's faster than the speed of light, where you can throw your brain into another consciousness, another place. So I have done that, but I'm not big on jumping out of my body.
I totally believe that, and the reason why is because, well, I'm not saying I don't believe it, but it's just what Tom Campbell did when I talked to him validated that, because we did an interview and he really wanted me to do, a video interview. So I did. And during the break, I could see him just kind of like, I don't know if he was chewing gum or something, but he would close his eyes and turn left to right. And I didn't know what he was doing. So during the break, I kind of asked him, I said, Tom, what are you doing? And he said, I'm just playing around and traveling. I'm like, traveling? Like right now? He goes, yeah. I said, you can do it that fast? He goes, absolutely. He goes, I like to move around in consciousness like that. And I'm like, wow, man, that's incredible. But he makes it, and that's the thing about it, is another question I wanted to ask you is, you guys make this stuff seem so easy. And I don't know what's blocking me from all this, and other people that have issues with doing things.
Well, I think, look, you have the constructs of having to do a radio show. People expect you to be around for them live on the radio, right?
Yeah.
That's a commitment. Right now, I don't have that kind of commitment. I've got to, give my book some love out there in the world, but I don't have that kind of regimented commitment to something. And when we do, there's a responsibility to that. So you are being physical and pulling people in to tell their stories. You're holding the space for people to do their work so that everybody else can hear about it. It's a big deal.
Right.
So
but I'd much rather be able to believe like you guys can do that fast. No, I'm just playing.
Okay. Well, we'll be very careful. Be very careful what you wish for, my dear.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
seriously,
fascinated by it.
You could go to Monroe and never come back.
I believe that. I really do. I think that's why when the experiences I've had that I just couldn't get out of my yard, or they've been pretty limited, because they know I'm kind of an escapist. I like that kind of stuff, man. That's a bad thing. You got to keep. It can be a bad thing, I guess. You got to keep your feet planted on the ground.
Well, let's not judge it. Let's just say that these are things that we're curious about, and we're curious until we're no longer curious. You got to play this stuff out, and you and I have to sit down and start planning your trip to Monroe. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's right. I can't even get out of the yard, but I will go to Monroe. To me, it's so cool because these people like meet up at different places, and they go to, like you're talking about, other planets and things of that nature. I guess there's a question in the chat room. Rick wants to know, what does Marla think about ITC? And I hope I'm not the only one that doesn't know what ITC means.
I don't know what ITC
Thank
is
you.
either.
It's kind of like when somebody puts these acronyms out, I'm supposed to know what that is. I think he did write it down, though. Instrumental transcommunication. Yeah, that would have been my first guess.
Well, Rick's going to have to call in so we can have this conversation. Yeah, have him call in so he can tell us so that we can talk about it.
That's why I got to keep repeating. That's probably why I need to keep repeating the number. It's 501-777-5631. I didn't even know what all that stuff was when people were doing like LOL or ROFL when that first started. I didn't know what that stuff was.
Yeah. I'm a little slow on the uptake to that stuff too. So, Rick, call in and educate us on this, please.
So now you're at marlafreeze.com. Is there a way where people can, if, say, somebody wanted to have a session with you online, do they go through the website there?
Yeah, sure. It's marlafreeze.com, and that's also connected to the book website, which is americanpsychicbook.com. And for any of your listeners, I've got 2 events coming up in Chicago. I'm reaching out to my Chicago peeps. I've got the Wilmette Theater Conversations with Jen Weigel on the 12th of July, which is, Jen Weigel at the Wilmette Theater. She's bringing on people like Paul Selleck and Carolyn Mace, all these people that are within this realm top people, and I'm so excited to be invited to come and talk with her group. So that's going to be on July 12th. And while I'm in Chicago, I have a dream that has come to fruition. Jim Cordy, the man that first put me on stage as an actress in my first equity show, he found me on a train actually in Chicago. But he's become the artistic director of the Paramount Theater in Aurora, right outside of Chicago. And it's one of the top musical places for venues. I mean, this is rivalry. It's the rival for New York. And they're doing incredible shows. And I'm going out there to the Paramount Theater, and I'm doing an evening talking with Jim about intuition, and I will work the room. I'm going to be working with the audience members. So that's a wonderful dynamic opportunity for people, if they're out there in that area in Chicago, to either go to the Wilmette Theater on the 12th or the Paramount Theater on July 14th. So I'm very excited about that.
If we're, let's say if we're having we're asleep and we have something, I don't know how much you know about dream interpretation, but I had just a crazy dream the other night. And I met some people in this dream that I'd never seen before. Like, I don't recognize their faces, but it was vivid. If I saw them on the street today, I'd be like, you were just in my dream. But I think these were people that might not be alive. Is there a way to tell that, or do you work with dream interpretation at all?
Okay, well, let's do this. When you are in a dream like that, you know you're in a dream, right?
Yeah, I knew I was dreaming for sure. It was lucid.
Okay.
I was lucid.
So what we do when we're in a lucid dream like that, we intention getting information. So basically, the next time you get ready for sleep, you make the intention that you are going to ask questions, that you are going to gain information. Make sure you have either a recorder beside the bed or a pad of paper with a pen so you can write this stuff down. Because once you get that information, you can turn and flip that switch on and download that information, but you've got to be ready to do it. It's something that you really do have to prepare for. And it could be deceased loved ones, or it could be another consciousness from another realm that's trying to communicate with you.
It felt like that. It felt like someone's from a different, it's hard to explain, someone from a different place. It felt very familiar, like I'd been there before, but they were like, well, you got to go now. It's time to go back. And I'm like, okay. And it was so weird, but as I woke up, sure enough, it all started fading away. You know, so you're right. I should have wrote it down.
Well, you're kind of preparing for Monroe, because when we go into these altered states with the hemisync work that we're doing and the guided meditation, we are going places, and they're also bringing us back. And that's part of the processing. Right after that, we write down all of this stuff. What I've learned to do is I put a recorder, I put an iPhone on my chest or right beside me on a little prop area where I can basically report what's happening in these experiences.
Oh, cool. I get that.
Oh, yeah.
That helps, I'm sure.
It's been incredible. Oh, my God. I'm so glad I've done that.
I'm going to do that from here on out.
Yeah.
I'm excited that you said that, because I could definitely wake up and just start saying a bunch of stuff. You know, like brown hair. I think her name was Emily, whatever. I saw this, and that. I won't remember it. 360 area code. You're on the air with Marla Freeze.
Hello.
Who are we speaking with?
This is Yvonne.
Hey,
Joe.
Yvonne. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. It's raining over here. I don't know what happened to our summer.
Oh, it happens. Are you in Hawaii?
Yeah. No, everybody thinks I am from Hawaii, but after I got out of the military, I live here in Washington now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
Hi, Yvonne.
Do you have a question for Marla?
Hi. Yeah. It's somewhat a self-centered question, but I have had a concern that I've been dealing with for a number of years, having to do with an investment. And I've just been in a quandary of how to proceed. And I'm just, at this, I kind of regress. And I'm just so wanting to hear from my ancestors of how to proceed in coming to the truth.
Well, Well, okay, that's interesting. You have a curiosity about an investment, and it might not necessarily be that I give you information from your deceased loved ones. I might be giving you information about, how I psychically see things. So,
Right.
do you have a piece? Okay, do you have a piece of paper? Can you write this stuff down?
Sure, I can.
Okay. So I want to draw a circle, and I want to segment it into like pie pieces. So I basically see 4 areas, and I see 3 of those areas that feel really wonky to me. So the investments that you have made don't feel solid within those 4 areas. So I can feel 3 of them not so great. So here's the thing. You have your own intuition about this. I think you need to look at the timing about 2 of them. And the timing seems to be better in the summer for one of them and better in the fall for the other. So I think you know what I'm talking about. Those 2, you can hedge your bet around that and either choose to get out before or at a time or stay in. Just know that those 2, I see that those 2 as being flexible enough to change with you. But the other one is just a bad investment. It's like, putting money into a plastic that's never going to break down. Or something that is not moving in consciousness. So does that make sense to you? Because I'm seeing those 4 things.
Well, yeah. Let me share with you. I did only one investment into a bamboo industry that deals with construction, green technology.
Okay.
And you're referring to the multiple project which we have pending.
Got it. Okay, good.
So
good. I'm glad I'm seeing it. Great. Okay, well, understand that the 4 parts that I see, 2 of them are workable. One seems very strong, and that other one, it's got to go.
Yeah, okay, good. And you were saying in the summer, right?
Yeah, summer peaks, and then there's something in the fall. I think the strongest one does the best in the fall, but something peaks in the summer. Okay, good. I hope that's helpful.
Good. Yeah, because I have the schedule of these things coming to fruition, so to speak.
Okay, good. Yvonne, while I got you on the phone, can I talk to you about something else that I'm picking up with you?
Yeah, I'm sure you're picking up something else.
Yeah, well, I'm actually picking up physical stuff with your right leg. What's going on? Is it I could be right or wrong about right or left. Is it the right leg?
No, it's my left leg. I have suffered a very...
Sorry.
I suffered an abrasive injury to my shin. And because of... And I'm an RN, too. And if you have... and it was a deep abrasive injury. A table saw fell against my leg.
Oh, man.
And the doctor... And the doctor said because there's very poor capillary circulation to that shin area where there's an abrasive injury. The bone didn't break. It's taking me forever to heal.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm making a suggestion. And sorry, I was wrong about it being left and right instead of left.
No.
But, but the dynamic that I'm seeing is, there's some infrared light boxes that people are using. I keep seeing light around it that is probably going to be really helpful. I apologize. I don't have a specific one to say right now on air that I could recommend, but there are companies that are making these infrared lights that are really penetrating that area that would be probably very helpful to that. Also, my dear, I do want to say that in order to alleviate some of the anxiety around that area, you need stable shoes. You can't be wearing shoes that are wonky because it's basically still irritating that area. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. I see. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Mahalo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yvonne's so cool.
She is cool.
So when you knew about her leg, did you just see a picture of a leg or something? Is that how that worked?
I felt it in my leg, but it was my right leg where I felt it. So, but I crossed my legs, so maybe I need to uncross them. Yeah, I felt it in my leg. I felt it before she got on the phone.
Wow. And you knew about the different aspects of the investment. So yeah,
I could see it. Mm-hmm.
So when you started interpreting this stuff, it seems like you're good at interpreting now. Did you have troubles interpreting what you were seeing or feeling in the beginning?
I don't remember. Isn't that clever? I really don't remember about how I was or not interpreting things. I think that it's kind of like how we grow with language. You know, do we remember how we learned words in first grade? I don't know. Right. I know that I had some problems reading for a little while, but once it clicked in, it was right there. I know that math is just not great for me, although I'd like to see what happens if I took an algebra class and if I would still be as frustrated with it as I was in 8th grade. I'd like to see that.
I was actually pretty good at math. I'm kind of intimidated and a little scared right now because it makes me wonder, I wonder if you can... this is how I feel around psychics, because everybody's got their own hang-ups and issues and things that we don't share. And some of those things are big things, you know, and it makes you wonder if they know. Do they know?
Listen, I know. Believe me, I've been through this. Oh my God, I remember a few years ago I was in a seminar. It was like maybe 25 people in the seminar, and we went around and told what we do, and I was sitting beside this guy, and he literally got up and moved away from me. And I basically said, "Look, guys, the last thing I want to do is sit here and read you. It's not that you're not that interesting to me. It's that this is my work. If you were an what do you call those people? An orthodontist or a dentist, you wouldn't be sticking your fingers in my mouth looking at my teeth, would you?"
Right. No.
So I have boundaries. You know, I have things to think about. This is weird. Let me tell you what's happening right now. I don't know whether somebody's going to call in or this is about you, Joe, but I'm getting a pain in the top of my head. Right at the top. It's really sore. So has somebody been trying to call in that had a head injury recently?
I don't know. It's not.
I know.
I know someone's trying to get a hold of me on Skype though, but it's not me. Could be my cat, though, because my cat did come off the car and busted. It hurt his head pretty bad.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's my fault.
Oh, well, okay. It might be your fault, but he's being taken care of, right? But I can feel that it's sore. It's just sore. So maybe this is what we needed to talk about, because I'm literally feeling it on the top of the head. So no blame. Something about the shoulder, too. The shoulder on one side is a little off. That might need some massage. And actually, this is so interesting. I've never taken a cat to a chiropractor, but that might be helpful. There might be some chiropractors around where you live that might be able to help something around this cat's healing. But here's the deal, honey. This cat loves you. And you love this cat, and there's no blame in any way, shape, or form. There's just nothing about that.
Well, somehow he got on the car while I was going down the road, and I didn't see him, you know.
Okay.
But it's a white car, and he's a white cat. So there you go. It happens, I guess.
Well, he's probably learned his little lesson, but we will, of course, check the car. But, you know, there's just too much love there. There's just too much love. And I think you just need to massage him so that the physical system starts to take up any of the clotting that's going on in there. That's the only thing that I have a little bit of a concern about. If this is, and the pain's gone, so it's probably about him.
Yeah, he does sit weird. He's always kind of sat a weird way. Like he's kind of in some pain all the time, you know?
Well, he loves you and you love him. And, you know, this is the whole deal. It's all about the love. It's all about the love.
The thing about it is like, I want to know. People have so many different opinions about what are pets here. Why are they here? Do they go to heaven?
Oh my God!
All this other stuff.
It's all about love. Oh my God! Where else can we get unconditional love? I mean, I get emotional thinking about why I hike in the mornings. I go up a trail so that I can see a couple of dogs up there, and they know I can talk to them. And the dynamic is, one in particular will come and tell me things about her mom. And I say, well, she's showing me a blue car's in the driveway and she's really happy. And of course the owner's like, oh yeah, well, my daughter's in town and that's the blue car. And I'm able to give the owner information based on what the dog is telling me. And I think that that's remarkable, that these animals on some frequency can communicate with us, but it's all about love.
Yeah.
Why else are they here?
Oh, we've done experiments on the show where I'm like, listen, the cat's gone again. I need everybody to try to help me get the cat home. And sure enough, everybody's like, okay. So they all put their intentions and prayers or whatever into it. And as soon as the show went off the air, I could hear him whining, walked right into the studio, you know.
Love that. Yeah, of course. And that's wonderful. It's just about the love.
But do you think that's like, I guess I get a little obsessive about it because I wonder if they have a consciousness and a soul, and if they have their own.
Of course they do. Of course they do. I see dead animals with loved ones. Oh my God! I mean, I can't tell you how many dead people have said, "Oh, and the wire terrier that just passed in the family, I have it." Or, you know, you remember the dog that you loved so much, that was the neighbor's dog? Well, it's with me. I hear stuff like that all the time.
That's
all
cool.
the time. Yeah.
Even I think that they can see in the astral realm too, because I think I had the cat I had before this one attacked me in the astral realm. Like it was watching me and it leaped at me and it kind of made me wake up, you know?
Well, yeah. I can imagine that if an animal that has been your pet loved you, would probably try and get back to you.
Yeah, that. And you know what else too is, I'm going to tell you a little story about my dad. My dad is one of the, he's a very hard man, Marla, but I gave him my old cat. And when that cat passed away, I'd never seen my dad cry like that.
Yeah.
Ever.
And you wonder what animals are here for.
Right. Well, they can break barriers, that's for sure.
That's right. You talk about love, you know, people have real issues with people, but sometimes it's their animals are more important than anything. You know, I haven't had an animal in a couple of years. I had a Rottweiler and he died, and I had a cat and he died, but I've got these squirrels that come to see me every morning, and I love that relationship. We don't hug each other very much, but they do take my fingers with the nut. And that's the contact we have. And that's how, I can identify them with the shape of their tail and the way that they act, but it's often the way that they hold my fingers to take a nut that tells me more about who they are. And it's very sweet.
If you can get a squirrel come to you, then you got gifts. I've been trying to do that my whole life. They're so skittish.
Well, this is true. But if you have nuts, well, I'm saying nuts that you can hand them.
It.
Yeah. They'll be your friend,
but
you got to get them the good. You got to get them the good stuff.
Maybe you're just messing with city squirrels, and I'm messing with country squirrels.
Exactly.
I don't know.
It is. I've got city squirrels.
But you know, I am going to ask you this question too. Like when I do have just out of body experiences or whatever you want to call them, I can't get past my domain. Like I can't do what other people can do. So, I don't know if it's me holding me back.
Wait a minute. First off, we don't know what realm you're going into when you're asleep.
Sure.
Or when you're doing your meditations. That's one of the reasons I'm a big, proponent of Monroe, because it's a safe environment. You are doing guided meditations, and after each session, we debrief, we work, we talk about these so that you are building the muscle of being able to do this on your own. But, I mean, honestly, I'm working all the time. So I'm always doing this work. When I go to Monroe, it's like a vacation for me to be in the elixir of educating myself and traveling out there, not necessarily for other people, but for me.
So it's all about you. That's what I need to do. I need that. I need a trip that's all about me. That sounds so selfish to me, though.
Well,
I don't know why, but it's ridiculous. It shouldn't be selfish.
You're so funny. You're so funny. Oh, my goodness. Well, you are in a group and everybody's learning from each other, from their experiences. But when you're doing this, you're going in and you're having your own experience. And there might be people in that experience. There might be some critters. There might be some, aliens from other places or whatever. Or it might be delicious, loved ones who want to communicate. So it's not just for you, but everything that we do, there's an element, of course, that is for us. And it's important to embrace that. I wrote this book because I loved writing it, but consciousness, spirit, the God consciousness made me write it. They made me do it. And I know that this book is a gift, and I know that it is going to be helpful for people. It's my gift to people. And yes, I spent 9 years. I sat on my ass for 3 years. 4 years, I had to do more experience in life to put in the book, and then 2 years to grow up enough to share it.
Man, I didn't know it took you that long to do that.
Yeah. Yes, it did. Yeah.
So do you feel better now? Like that you did it?
Yes. I feel yes. The whole book process is something that, nobody tells you enough about it. You have to go through it to learn it. But I'm just thrilled. I will tell you that something happened today, which I was so moved by. Back in my hometown, there were a number of things that I've written about in the book. And it was at a time in the 60s and the 70s where our fathers were coming back from World War II, and they were out of their minds, and so were our mothers. And they were medicating themselves. And in the little neighborhood that I grew up in, there were families that were abusive, and there were some things that were going on. And one of those people contacted me and said, I read your book. I'm free of my pain. I have peace. So whatever happened to her by reading my story, she went on the ride with me. And of course, the ride is about going through the trauma and the drama into transformation and forgiveness. But the fact that she had reached out to me is the epitome of why I wrote the book. So that someone could take this ride with me and have an experience that would give them context around their own life and their own pain so that they could heal.
That I can relate to.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this radio show. Because I can, a lot of people, they reach out to me, Marla, through email or whatever, even letters. I get letters in the mail too. And they want me to, it's almost like they want me to be this authority figure. But I don't want to be that. I want to just be this person that's going on this ride. I don't want to tell everybody, look, I know the truth. I'm going to give you the truth. That's what this is all about. No. I'm trying to find the truth.
Yes. Well, we go on the ride with them to find our own truth. And in turn, we can sort of guide and share and, bring different people on in order for other people to find their truth. It's like tour guides. I've been on unknowncountry.com's Dreamland since 2007, off and on as a co-host. And I love being able to bring on someone's book or someone that's doing incredible events in order to share it with the community. But am I an authority on what they're talking about? No. I'm interested in giving a platform for them to share what they know. And of course, I'm learning things about it, but, we're all learning.
And you don't really know you think you know somebody until they write a book. You know what I mean? Like when I first talked to you, I didn't read any of your book or anything. I just thought, wow, what a great, energetic, happy, light working individual, right? Mm-hmm. But then kind of going over your journey here, I'm thinking, man, sometimes we think that we've gone through some rough stuff and we've got stuff to complain about, but we really just don't know a lot of the stuff that people are dealing with,
No, we don't. And that's something that's happening in my hometown right now. People have an idea of who I am, and they're going to read the book, and they're going to, part of them will be like, well, why didn't I know that? Why couldn't I stop that? Why couldn't I step in and maybe do something? How could I help? Well, this is what I needed to go through myself. I had to go through what I had to go through in order for me to become who I am. And that's for all of us. And so, with just what's happening with Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, people that are in the public, we have only the persona that we see. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And we have to be very careful about our judgment and our opinions about people, and that's across the board. It doesn't matter who's out there in the public. We have to allow room for people to grow. And yes, we've got lots of opinions, but is that helpful?
Right. Yeah, you know what they say about opinions too, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I think that what you've done with this book and the work that you're doing is really validating the steps that I've taken. See, I'm kind of like the whole reason why I did Spaced Out Saturday was because I just started to get into the UFO thing, and this crowd is really into that. They're really into, they're into spirituality too, but they're also into, government programs and UFO stuff and everything. And it was people like Whitley Strieber and Bob Monroe and Tom Campbell, and when they talk about running into these beings, I guess sometimes they really couldn't even see them, but it makes me wonder, like in the Bible they talk about angels, they talk about watchers.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Are there people out there really watching this planet,
Well, remember, the three wise men and the Star of Bethlehem, whether that's the North Star or Sirius, there's lots of story around a lot of these things. And if we try to pull it apart and extrapolate it, it changes the story. And a lot of people like to be stuck on the story. I'm very much interested in understanding that all of the stories that we've been told, there is merit to them, but there's other layers here. Or we wouldn't be evolving. We would still be, thinking that smoking Marlboros is good for us. I mean, we have to evolve with what we're learning. We don't have slaves anymore. Right. That was something that was in the Bible. That
seems ridiculous to us now to even have that.
Well, of course. And, the other ridiculous things, that you were punished, or the chastisement of eating, beef and dairy. Well, you could never eat a hamburger now. We'd all be going to hell. Or wearing nylon and cotton together, or not cutting your hair, or cutting your hair, or the most insane things that became, ritual. And Bible literalists can't walk out of their door without, having to sort of massage some of these things that are talked about. We have to grow with consciousness. That's why, why was the New Testament written? Mm-hmm. It's the New Testament. Hello. So I want to move with the consciousness of what this all is. And that includes our birthright of being connected to Source.
Well, I think you're doing that. I really do.
We don't necessarily need an intermediary to be connected to Source. but it feels good to have, men that wear robes and a structure to follow, because there is ritual in that. And part of us likes ritual, right?
If it works. If it works, you use it, right? If it's getting you there, use it. And that's what, we got a couple of minutes left here with you. And I just want to say that's what I like about you, that you're not here to tell some specific story that identifies the truth about every little thing, or you're not here to say the truth about everything. You are just telling people your life experience in this book. You're helping people heal. And you're just as curious and open-minded about this as I am, and you're a part of the team. You're like a soul sister to me. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I feel that about you
on.
too. Yeah, thanks. I feel that way about you too, Joe. And thank you all for listening this evening. I do want to be able to have a dialogue with people and to talk about some stuff. And I'm really thrilled that Bill and Vaughn called in and we got to talk to them. And I do encourage people, it's a blessing for me to have written the book, and it would be a blessing for me to have you all have that in your hands.
Tell them how to find you on the web.
Find me on the web,
yeah.
marlafreeze.com. And of course, that Gaia gift is really terrific if you go to Amazon and buy the book, so that you get that free Gaia, 2 weeks of Gaia. It's the greatest thing I can give you guys right now. And that, once you do buy the book on Amazon, then you go to American-Psychic.com to redeem your free 2 weeks of Gaia. So I'm just thrilled, and I encourage people to, write me, communicate with me. I'm very interested in what you all are doing out there and what you're interested in too. So thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Marla. I really appreciate it. You guys go get the book, American Psychic, marlafreeze.com. And I tell you what, if you're bored, there's plenty of clips out there over on YouTube too, doing some pretty funny stuff. I'll do that.
Well, I've got to get some old acting tapes up there. That'll make people laugh for sure.
Thanks again, Marla. It's been fun.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
We'll be right back, guys. The third hour, take your phone calls, and we're just going to talk about this. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Looking for a path to follow in the darkest of
From the Mile High State of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all and your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Let us play with all our toys.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Want more information about our programming? Check out spacedoutradio.com. You can follow our host, Joe Rube, on Twitter at Lighting the Void. Call in to tonight's show at 501-777-5631. Now, entering the radio ring from Arkansas, Spaced Out Saturday host, Joe Roop.
Entering the radio ring sounds like I'm in a boxing match or something. I like it. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. If you're just tuning in, this is Spaced Out Saturday. I am your host, Joe Roop. We just got through talking to the incredible Marla Freeze. And real quick, I want to tell you guys, if you're listening on Spreaker or the Fringe FM, or if you're listening on spacedoutradio.com, that we do appreciate each and every one of you, and that Spaced Out Radio is here for you 7 nights a week. I want to tell you guys a little bit about Marla as well before we move on here, that I am very impressed with this. Anybody that is around this type of work, like I lean towards these people like Robert Monroe, William Buellman. There's so many names, Marla, Whitley Strieber even, and because they're taking this spiritual stuff from a scientific approach. Now, Marla told you that she's a part of something where they're actually going to try to prove it, but you can tell that she didn't talk about it that much because you don't want to get people's hopes up, but it's cool to know that those people out there that I look up to in this spirit science movement are actually trying to get things proven on a level that would shake the paradigm up of the whole world, and that's what I'm all about. And speaking of which, on this last hour, it's been such a long time since I've had him on, so I've brought in the resident scientist, Eric Markham. Thank you so much for joining us, Eric. I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, Joe.
Are you in the lab right now? Are you doing work?
Yeah, but our computer, we're having downtime, so
like a mad scientist.
Yep, I got pipes bubbling and sparks arcing.
So real quick, I want to play this clip of Thomas Campbell. I know we brought up this Kickstarter a little bit. And just kind of, it's a little thank you that he put out. So I'm just going to play that really quick, and then we'll get back to the conversations. Now, I know that that's important to me, and I'll tell you, he wants to make a statement. So let's just do that first.
Folks, Tom Campbell here. I just wanted to let you know how the Kickstarter campaign is going. As you know, we started that campaign in order to fund the physics experiments that I have that hopefully will convince the world that indeed we are living in a virtual reality and that virtual reality is computed by consciousness. These experiments will take at least $150,000 to buy the equipment and to buy the experienced personnel to do them and to buy the lab facility in which to do them in. And that is the minimum value we've set on our Kickstarter campaign. Now, for all of those of you who have donated already to that campaign, I want to thank you very much. We're doing reasonably well. It looks like we could make it, but it's coming down to the wire and it's going to be a little close. You see, with the Kickstarter rules, if you don't make your goal of $150,000 in this case, then everything is given back. There is no money earned, and the whole thing turns out to not give you any money at all. So it's an either all or nothing campaign. You make your $150,000 or you get nothing. So we're going to get close, and it'd be a shame to miss it by such a small amount and end up with nothing. So I would like to encourage all of you to donate, and maybe even more importantly, pass this message around to your friends, to other people that you know are interested in MBT, anybody you can think of, or any of your audience that you have. If you do a blog or something like that, you could put it out to your audience. Hopefully we can pick it up just enough that we can get to that 150 by the end of the period. Okay, so you can donate by going to the Kickstarter page. It's going to be right below this video in the comments. So please look it up. And if you can donate even as little as $10, that would be wonderful. Also, we're doing a live stream with special guests every couple of days. There's another one coming up. If you go to that Kickstarter page, you'll see the schedule for who's coming up and the talks that we're going to have. I think you'd find some of those very interested. Well, that's about all I have. Please tell your friends and be generous. We'd like to get those experiments done. Thank you.
So there you go, right, Eric? a NASA physicist who's not only helped create HemiSync from the Monroe Institute, astral travels on a constant basis. He's also worked on our missile defense systems. He's also worked for, I don't know how many countless government programs as a physicist. A true born and bred scientist, but also a spiritualist who is dead set. And they did reach their goal, by the way. And I think they're asking, every little bit helps to keep this moving, but who's dead set on proving this. So when I talk about proof, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And it's not for a disbelief thing. I'm actually excited because we might be alive during a time when a group of scientists like this are not just going to do the double slit experiment. They've got other stuff in store, which I can't even imagine what that is, to prove that everything is consciousness. That's incredible. What do you think about that, Mark?
I think it'd be amazing to be alive when that comes out. I mean, if you look at the mystic writings, the esoteric knowledge, they're already saying this. So what these physicists are trying to go about proving to the 21st century mind was already being written about and believed, back when, there wasn't even anybody living on the North American continent. So, these beliefs go back into the BC era, and it would just be fantastic to have them, brought up and proven.
So right now they reached their goal and then some. They have 1,000 backers, and it's up to $215,925. So it will get funded. And I mean, by all rights, they could be asked. They could ask for $1 million or something, like To the Stars or whatever. But Tom he's an honest guy. I'm just curious to what other experiments besides the double slit that they could do. Do you have any idea what kind of experiments they could do to prove that?
I'm not sure, because the double slit has been done to death. I mean, there's only so many ways to do that, and my favorite version of that is with the twinned particles, where you actually get retrocausality out of it. But I'm not sure. I'm amazed that he could get it all together for a physics experiment for as little as $150,000.
Well, maybe it just doesn't take as much as we think. I mean, the double slit probably didn't take that much money. But during those Q&A sessions, and I missed them. I wish I wouldn't have, but I missed them, that they were talking about and there's a Google Drive link on the Kickstarter too, where they were talking about the experiments they were going to do, and anybody that wanted to challenge them, they even put down there, bring it on, like they would debate them, So I can't tell you how stoked I am about this. And with Marla's book out, I'm telling you, man, I really think, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be alive, but I'm really thinking I'm going to get to see something pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I really enjoyed Marla, and you know how I feel about most psychics.
Yeah, I do. But I'm telling you, she's the real deal. Like, sometimes it's a hit or miss thing with psychics. They just go with what they feel. But there's so many times when she's hit, when she's been on. But see, that's how a dream state is, or any type of thing when you're dealing with consciousness. It can get a little chaotic, and you're trying to interpret this stuff. But I think she does real well with it. And, of course, our buddy Rich Giordano don't believe in psychics. But I would challenge him to do a one-on-one session with her, or at least get the book and see what they've been through. I would like to see
that. Yeah, because Rich says there's this one question that he'll know a psychic is legit if they can pull that off, if they can pull that from him. And I think she might be close to one that could do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to gear up for. Maybe one of these days I'll get Marla and Rich on the show, and they can do a head-to-head. That would be kind of cool.
Oh, that would be awesome.
And I don't think Rich Giordano would be the kind of guy that would just do everything in his power to prove that Marla's wrong, because he's the kind of guy that if something happens that proves him wrong or whatever, he'll accept it. And that's what I love about him.
Well, yeah, he's not. He's like you and I. He's looking for truth, not truth for truth's sake, not so much to, have bragging rights or anything. It's all about seeing reality, seeing truth for what it is, and getting it out there to where everybody else can be enlightened too.
Yeah, so Julian's got a good question. Aliens and orbs and Sasquatches and ghosts and everything. Is this guy saying that it's all just simulated, or is it all consciousness? I got to tell you, if you read his book, the first book, My Big Toe, which is My Big Theory of Everything, that's pretty much what he states, that everything is consciousness and it's all kind of simulated. So that makes you wonder about religion and all this other stuff. I mean, we kind of are in a video game, kind of. That's the way, that's the way he talks about it. Pretty trippy.
So he's saying it's a holographic universe. It's like the Matrix, only instead of a outside programmer, it's the collective consciousness that's making what we perceive as reality happen.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much the hologram thing, but he does talk about, like, every time he's used an example, he's used like World of Warcraft or a video game that you and I would play, and say that, there's something there behind them pulling the strings, and if you die, you can spawn or become a different character or whatever. And he really breaks it down on that simplistic of a level. But then when you read his book, he kind of gets scientific about it. And plus he's done, this guy helped Robert Monroe come up with hemisync, which was the two tones that everybody uses now. Some people call them binaural, but it's simply putting one tone in one ear at a frequency and another tone in another ear at maybe a slightly higher or lower frequency. And what it does is it syncs the two hemispheres of your brain together, which causes all kinds of stuff to happen. Astral travel, out-of-body experiences, premonitions, or whatever. And they've got countless. You can go to their website, monroeinstitute.org, and they've got countless audio clips of these types of things happening. And Joseph in the Spreaker chat is right that the mystery schools and Hermetics kind of taught this stuff through symbolism as well, I don't know. You've been studying that too, right? Here lately.
Oh yeah, you pushed me into that. You pushed me into the deep end of that subject completely.
I didn't have to push very hard.
No, you didn't have to push very hard. I was already heading in that direction, but it's been very enlightening. I know that phrase gets thrown out there a lot, especially in New Age type stuff, but when you see how much of the symbolism from, let me say, the BC era, how much of that symbolism we take for granted in our day-to-day life. Christmas trees, resurrected, Christ beings, you look at all this symbolism, and it's been there all along, and it's been part of people's lives for so long, they overlook, or they don't bother looking at its origin. It's just taken for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, but then again, like Marla was saying, that, I believe, and please, you guys, don't send me hate email for saying this too, but some of you think that I'm a religion basher, but I am not. I believe that religion has its place. I believe it for everybody. Some people don't need to look into the mysteries. Some people just may need Buddha or Christ or Krishna or whoever, and that's all they need. And that, to me, is wonderful. But I'm a curious party. And so when I see these things and I look through the symbolism, I can't stop. It's like a rabbit hole that never ends. I got to keep going,
Exactly. Well, even in the Christian Bible, you have, I believe it was St. John. Anyhow, one of them, it's like, this doctrine out here, there's a soft version for the children, which he's basically saying there's a simplified version for the rank and file and the people who just want to find that basic level of comfort. But the real meat is reserved for those who want to know more. So even in the Bible's own writings, there's a hint that there's more to it than what's being written down.
Yeah, well, what I do, Eric, is when I read a text, like a religious text, and I dig into it. I will dig into the Hebrew meanings, then the Latin meaning, and then try to dig deeper and maybe see where it is on the Kabbalistic tree of life, maybe what they're referring to in the mystery schools. But there's one that always gets me, and I forget the book. I don't know. Maybe it was Jacob. I don't think it was the book. Like, that's not the name of the book, but where he talks about where he wrestled with an angel, and then he woke up, and then I guess he won from wrestling with the angel. And he said, I've seen the face of God, and I will call the place Peniel. Now think about that. I've looked up what that word Peniel means, and even in Latin and Hebrew, unless I've studied this wrong, the only thing that I can come up with is a cone-shaped thing, right? Like a pineal, like your pineal gland. Think about that. And you look at these ancient Egyptian structures, and they have these pine cones that they're holding, and you can see the eye with the pineal gland in it. It goes back to horse. So there's something to syncing both hemispheres of your brain together. And like I say on Lighting the Void, lighting up your third eye, shooting your magical beam of light through your third eye. You know, there's something about that.
Well, I've done some of those binaural beats, and
oh, really? I
would love to be hooked up to a electroencephalogram while that was being done. Or
that?
That's the old back before they had CAT scans. They would put electrodes on your skull to try and pick up the brain waves inside, what the brain activity was, and it would chart kind of. You'll see in some of the older sci-fi things, there's the table full of the rolling graph paper, and it's got like the 7 needles that it almost looks like a seismograph on the side, and they could track the activity based on how the needles deflected, and then that went into more of a cathode ray tube display type of arrangement. And now I don't think they do it too much because CAT scans and MRIs have actually come along and replaced. I mean, they might do it for the basics, but mostly now it's, you go straight to CAT scan, you go straight to MRI, and they look for the functional parts, what's going on in the brain during these different things.
I'm just having an image in my head of you with all this stuff hooked up on your head like a Doc on Back to the Future. You remember that,
That would be that would be a fairly appropriate image for me.
When he's got that big thing hooked up on his head and he's like trying to read his mind, and he's like, wait, let me tell you, and he takes like 3 guesses and he goes, no. And he goes, do you know what this means? And he's like, what? He goes, it means this damn thing doesn't work.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, he had the homemade. Yeah, that was a homemade ECG that he had made out of like a big aluminum colander.
Right.
So, yeah.
I could see
Doc
you doing
Brown
that.
is my hero. Oh, yeah. I could too.
I'm kind of a lover of science and of science fiction too, but we've taken on the Fringe FM. We're going to be playing Chris Cogwell's The Mad Scientist podcast, who was the former, we had him on the show. I don't know if you remember that, but he was the former MUFON, top guy of research, but left. And I think science is, I used to not have faith in science, but I do now. It's after I met people like Tom Campbell and other people like you who are open-minded that changed my mind about it.
Well, my whole thing is, okay, yes, I've got the scientific training. I've got the sheepskin hanging on the wall. Almost 30 years in my field, and it's a strictly scientific field. But I have had experiences. The sum of my life is not what goes on between the time I clock in, the time I clock out. A lot of scientists, I think, once they get off the clock, they're too rigid to experience anything that doesn't fall inside their textbooks or inside that scientific paradigm.
But can't that be a good thing though? Like like Neil deGrasse Tyson, everybody knows this guy and everybody's got an opinion about him. But he will not entertain. I mean, I guess he kind of does entertain certain ideas, but unless it can be scientifically validated, he leaves it alone. But then again, he also has stated that as far as living in a simulated reality, he said that, there's great science behind it. He's even said that.
Right. Well, but there again, he still, his compass needle always points toward science. If Neil deGrasse Tyson was laying in a bed in Providence, Rhode Island, and had a voice say, excuse me, he would chalk it up to a hypnagogic state, or, he would never entertain. I'm
that would happen to
man,
you, or
I probably
something?
shouldn't. Yeah. I can't see Neil deGrasse Tyson coming on saying, oh yeah, I had a disembodied voice speak to me that sounds like a, Victorian era mudlark, or, a child from the Elizabethan era. Not Elizabethan, I'm sorry, the Victorian era.
Whoa, hold on a second. I don't want to tell a story you guys have heard a million times, but I haven't heard this story, Eric.
Okay. Years ago, I went up to Providence, Rhode Island. I got family up there, and I was, my schedule was messed up, so I was popped up awake. Part of it is I wasn't taking my diabetic drugs, and I was eating every sugary thing I could between North Carolina and Rhode Island. So as a result, I was having to get up and use the restroom quite a bit. That's part of diabetes. You drink a lot of water, and you have to get rid of that water.
Okay.
So I'm watching the clock, thinking, God, do I really need to get up and go to the bathroom again? It's just been a couple hours or an hour and a half, anyhow. And this voice, and I was wide awake because I was just making that decision. God, do I need to get up or not? Listening to the noises in a strange house. When you go somewhere different, out of the norm. Anyway, this voice, just as clear as you're speaking to me, like it was at the foot of the bed, which, was right up against the wall, so there was nobody standing there, said, excuse me, in this, like a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid with a Victorian, Victorian. Think
like an old English, British.
Old English,
gotcha.
like the era of like Regency, or think Penny Dreadful, or maybe
that's a great
Frankenstein
show.
Chronicles.
Did your heart speed up? Usually, when I have experiences like that, my heart will speed up, and I don't know if it's fear or just a natural reaction.
Well, I thought, just because it caught me unaware, I yelled out, "What?" And then F, and threw my hand up, the hand that's got the heavy class ring on, threw my right hand up, and of course I hit the headboard of the bed. So it's like, I just felt like somebody was punking me, and I threw my hand up and just, oh wait, there's headboard there. So I get up, I'm looking all over the place. There's nowhere anybody was hiding. There's no place for them to stand. And it was just it was like, at daylight, I tore that room apart looking for a microphone or a speaker or something. Nothing. And so it's like, at that point, it's like, okay, I know I was awake. I was like, I'm either crazy or a ghost spoke to me. Now
or you had a moment of
crazy, but
schizophrenia.
I don't know. It was like a physical. I don't know, but I took it to mean that there was, and Providence, Rhode Island, West Warwick, that whole area. God, there's been people there for 300 years. So, if there's going to be a place that's haunted, and where my aunt's house is that house isn't so old, but the house right next door was the original blacksmith shop of I think it's West Warwick. The house behind used to be a stagecoach stop. Like, George Washington slept here. He really did. I mean, so that whole area, the cemetery nearby, there's a cemetery like 2 blocks away, might be a little more than that. Yeah, there's tombstones in there that they don't even know who they are because they're eroded to the point, so they know they go back at least into the 1600s.
So yeah, you might have been dealing with a national entity moving around or something, possibly. I just I'm big. The reason why I wanted to have you on is because after speaking to Marla was the science behind it. I think Thomas. I can't talk about it enough, man. I think Tom Campbell's going to do it. It wasn't enough that the double slit experiment that they didn't shake up everybody. It's like maybe it's just too hard to explain. And is it a scientist's job to try to simplify the experiment for the sake of explaining it? You get what I'm asking?
Yes, I believe it is. I think there's two kinds of scientists. You've got the experimental scientist that's supposed to, he designs, or they design the experiment to answer a question. But it takes a very special kind of scientist that understands the physics, understands what the experiment meant to the point that they can explain it. I think it was Einstein said, if you can't take relativity and explain it to a 3-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. Right. And that might be oversimplifying it, but some of the best teachers I've ever had, I had an algebra teacher in college who could have taught a brick algebra. He understood it that well, and he understood how to make you see the answers.
Well, I got to tell you, when the double slit experiment came out, and everybody and their brother had their own explanation of it, and I didn't understand it at first. I understood that, okay, once light particles are observed, or once light is observed, it becomes a particle and it does what it's supposed to do. So it took me forever, and maybe I'm just a simple-minded person, but it took me forever to figure out what they were proving in that experiment. And I think I don't know if it was an accident or if that's what they were actually trying to prove, but it took me forever for me to realize that, hey, what they've proved here is that when light is observed, it does what it's supposed to do. Exactly. It does what it does what then I can't even explain it still yet to this day, but it does what it's supposed to do. When it's not observed, it's just a wave of chaos. And that shook up a lot of things in me when I first realized that. And that's what I'm worried about with this experiment. I know they're funded. I know they got enough money. But if they do more experiments like that, is it going to be enough to convince everybody? Because that one experiment right there ought to have everybody questioning everything.
Oh, absolutely. It exists as a wave. Light exists as a wave. If you don't send it through a particle, the particle counter acts as the observer. So when the wave goes through the particle counter, the wave, once it's observed, collapses, the wave function collapses, and you've got this particle. So it's like you've got this raw material, this wavelength of light, and it turned into, or it can be constructed into, this particle based upon the power of the observer. This was being noticed by Niels Bohr in the early days of the quantum physicists. He called, as a matter of fact, they were all debating. You had Niels Bohr, Schrodinger, I can't think. All these big, you open up physics books and all these big names. They were all seeing the same thing and realizing that by observing their experiments, they were affecting the outcome. And this is what prompted Niels Bohr to bring Einstein into it. It's like, Albert, what's going on? Because everybody Albert was like everybody's favorite uncle, apparently. He was like the final arbiter in a lot of things. And when they brought him in, he didn't like this stuff. He called it spooky action at a distance. And the whole idea that this thing we take for granted, comes from candles, comes from stars, comes from the sun, has a dual nature.
Well, doesn't
it's the
everything
observer
in matter
that determines that?
Well, doesn't everything in matter have photons in it? Like, isn't that pretty much everything?
Well, it depends on whether you talk to somebody like Nassim Harriman,
right?
Or different. I think there's different theories. I don't think it's so much photons. I mean, I'm kind of
photons a light particle,
edge,
right?
Right, I know that, but I'm kind of at the edge of that's why I'm starting a degree in physics. I'm tired of not knowing enough about it. But photons react with matter, but I don't think all matter has photons. I mean, it goes down to other fundamental particles that aren't photons, but photons do interact.
The reason why I'm asking that is because Bill Donahue is probably one of the first, I would say, Christian mystics I've ever listened to. And he's got tons of YouTube videos on there where he actually interprets Bible verses as something you would have never thought they were. And it's very hard for me. I've been trying to get him on the show. It's very hard for me to explain some of the stuff, but that's what he's about is he's thinking that at our base nature that we are photons, that everything is light and information and communication. And then you think, well, what am I? Just a light particle? I'm just this thing of light. And then you look at what Tom Campbell's talking about, and it's very possible that that's what you are.
Which would make us holographic beings and make the entire observable universe a hologram, because that's basically definition, the structure created of light is basically what a hologram is.
If that's true, then explain to me physical pain. Like if somebody stabs me with a knife, if everything's a hologram, then why do I feel like I'm dying?
How much of that is the consciousness controlling the experiment?
You mean like
from what you're taught from if you were brought up and isolated in such a way and didn't know that if somebody sticks a knife in you, it hurts, would it still hurt?
I think it would. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, I do too, because, the nerves, you got to look at how things are constructed. I mean, even if at the core level we are light, that light has become nerve endings, synapses. There's this meat suit that we wear that carries these energetic beings around through this experience we call lifetime. It's still, it's still matter. I mean, yes, surely if you go down to the subatomic level, we're mostly space, but still, in order to function in this reality or this universe, we have to have this thicker, this suit. I guess it's like a meat robot that we have to have.
Well, I appreciate
to interact with
you trying to explain that. I do, man. I do. I appreciate how humble you are, because even as a scientist, you don't pretend to know everything, and I really respect that.
I'm just guessing. I just think that my own theory is that, yes, we are these energetic beings, but energy has a tendency to, think of lightning strikes, think of, radar ranges. Energy isn't good at manipulating objects. It either blows them up, melts them, burns them, evaporates them. Perhaps as energetic beings, we understand this on a level, and that's why we wear the meat suit, so that we can explore, we can manipulate matter, we can manipulate our environments and learn.
Well, even in my esoteric studies of all this, ancient spirituality, ancient Egypt, pre-Egypt, Sumerian, all these things, all these studies, everything's so contradictory. I get in a state of confusion. Like, because when you read Robert Monroe's books, or if you listen to him on the audio, even those things are just belief structures that we've created. So even the mystery teachings, according to his experience, are probably just belief structures that we've created.
Well, our minds try to define and try to find. I mean, I guess it's a survival instinct on some level, because if we didn't have a paradigm or a group consciousness, what kind of chaos would we see?
Yeah, like
how would we make sense of it?
Yeah, if the truth was, okay, everything is just consciousness and chaos. That's the truth. And you just make it up as you go, and you're just trying to figure yourself out. Ready, set, go. Where does everything else fall into place? You know?
Right. You know, what about all these other meat suits that are running around trying to find find answers and, you know, this interactivity?
And then you got then I'm like, okay, well, let me just stop with all this chaotic and confusion talk, and I know that love is real, right? I know love is real, just like the chick said on The Hobbit. You know, if this is love, take it away. Why does it hurt so much? And that elf guy said, because it's real. In other words, that message is there. So that's the one thing that you know is real. Well, that even bothers me a little bit, because some stories out there are telling you that these aliens created us to produce love so they can vamp it. It's called Loosh or something. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's like a science fiction story, yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, so this love thing that we're feeling, you're telling me that it's just a trick that they created and put in our DNA so we can produce it so they can vamp off of it like a blood-sucking baby or something?
Isn't life wonderful? There's so many different ways to go. You don't know whether to be exalted or to be depressed and pull the bomb shelter hatch over your head and wait it out.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm into astral travel. Like Manly P. Hall says, the true mystery teachings are in the inner realms. Because I'm trying to go that way, and I'm going to fly up to I'm going to go to Source like Monroe did, or try to, and figure it all out. Like, just keep going until you find this ultimate master that's sitting up on a cloud somewhere in space with runes tattooed all over him, and he really does know everything. You know?
Do you really want to know everything, though?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, okay, think about, I don't know, I almost feel like that would be tantamount to when you got that Christmas present that you just couldn't wait to get.
I always opened them up.
And you got it, and it was so disappointing. After you got it, it was like, oh, is that all there is? Or, you know, now what? And I think having all the answers. One of the things that terrifies me is if we are eternal beings, that means we've done this before. You and I have had this conversation or one similar to it before. I mean, it just, if it's cyclical and turns back on itself,
there's nothing new under the sun, brother. You're talking about Ecclesiastes. So, even in that book, the writer of that book said, the more wisdom and knowledge you see, you can find out, the more sorrowful you become. And all is vanity. I can see that. All is vanity. Think about that for a second. Even the listener, think about that. That book in the Bible is telling you that all is vanity. Even when you give and do nice things, that you're only doing it to feel better about yourself or to win yourself into heaven. You're not really doing it for that other person, so it's vanity. All is vanity, and there's nothing new under the sun. And the more wisdom you seek, the more sorrowful you're going to become. And the best thing you can do is eat, drink, and be merry and enjoy the fruits of your labor. I got to think that sounds pretty true as well.
It sounds true to a point, but it's also very cynical, because there are people that do nice things for other people just to do for somebody.
I think that's true as well. So that ought to tell you, is that a canonical
you
text?
have done something for some. I mean, there's been, I've done things for people just randomly because they needed it. Strangers that I didn't know, never will see again, with no hope. I never thought to get anything out of it. And I'm not a religious person, so it's not like, hey, God, put that in your book. So I'm not motivated in that way.
You
I think that
Christian?
Ecclesiastes, huh?
You didn't grow up a Christian?
I fought it. I got drugged to church, but I didn't pay much attention. I was always good at living in my own head, so while they're going through all this stuff, I had my own fantasy world going on inside my head. I've been living inside my own skull for most of my life, for the most part. My dad realized it sitting me. I had still have it, little red chair. It was my timeout chair back before it was called timeout. And if I was bad, I had to sit in that chair. Dad realized that wasn't a punishment because I was my body was in that chair facing the wall, but my brain was wherever it was.
Well, I hope this isn't true. Ecclesiastes says, for in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases in sorrow.
I think there is some of that because look at especially when you try to share with people around, it's like, oh wow, I just had this revelation. What, this and this, and people look at you like, yeah, go back to your
I always tell
cave
them,
or whatever.
you might possibly be paranoid schizophrenic. You might need to get your head checked. A crazy person doesn't know they're crazy, Eric.
That's true.
You guys have watched that show Legion. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it because it's incredible. But also,
one of the things
that doesn't mean that people that are seeing stuff and talking to things and that aren't there, it doesn't mean that sometimes I wonder if they really are seeing stuff and that stuff is real and we're just calling them crazy.
I've often wondered if they are not in touch with, because so much of what we perceive is set up in mental filters. If what we call a schizophrenic is somebody without the same filters we have.
We're not going to get into this whole Laurel Yanni thing again, are we?
I don't even know what that was.
That there were people even arguing about how that was constructed. They would play a sound, and everybody got into this a few weeks ago, but all it was they played a lower frequency of Laurel and a higher frequency that said Yanni, but they played them together. So if you can imagine a crossfader, Laurel's on the left, Yanni's on the right. They put it in the middle, and most people heard Laurel, but some people heard Yanni. And as soon as that came out,
it's a matter of which hemisphere picked up and processed,
or what frequencies you can hear. But some of the reactions to that just really baffled me. People like, it's a psyop, it's the CIA. Or they're tricking you, or that's not really saying Laurel at all. And I'm like, where are you guys coming up with this stuff, man? Like,
it's just whatever frequency your brain could pick up and process. I mean,
yeah.
I think the problem is people think what they see and what they hear. That's part of what I find so great about reality. It's like you're looking at something. And what you're seeing is the light that is reflected off of that object traveling in through your eye and being processed in your brain. What you hear, it isn't like a TV dinner. It's not pre-made. It has to hit the ear.
I love TV dinners.
Yeah, me too. Bachelor chow. Yep. But, it has to hit the eardrum. It has to go into the brain. It has to be processed. Maybe I've always wondered if we're listening to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, are we all hearing the same Beethoven's Ninth Symphony? Or if we look at red, Are we all seeing the same red?
I seen that. I said that the other week, and everybody just went cross-eyed on me. Like they didn't understand what I was asking. I'm like, look, you if you were born seeing different colors than everybody else, but it's just a refraction of a molecule, you're seeing the colors, the same colors. But you might be processing different colors, but everybody's calling it the same thing. And then you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Of one of those books, he says that all people do not see the same things with their eye. And it didn't sound like a metaphor. I'm just if everything is a refraction of molecules and formulas that we're interpreting with our brain, there is a lot out there. I could theorize that everybody's seeing differently, and we just don't know it.
Oh, I agree. I don't know how there would be any way to argue that. Yeah, I mean, and maybe you get into people taking what's the DMT,
dimethyltryptamine.
And LSD, and some of these drugs that seem to strip the filters away and alter the user's reality.
You know, a lot of those people, when they try to explain, the first thing they say when they try to explain dimethyltryptamine, and I've talked to a bunch of them, is they can't explain it. It's so profound they can't explain it. But when they try, there's two things that all of them always say: colors and geometrical shapes like I've never seen before.
I have got to do that someday. I just really do. That's one of those on my bucket list. I just really want to have that experience.
You know, you do it every night, though, right? When you sleep.
To an extent, I guess. Yeah, it's a naturally occurring, but not. I guess it's not enough of a dose to, impact your consciousness. Like when you take enough, when you're conscious, wide awake, and you take it. You take a large enough dose that you're actually in that moment.
You know, want to hear something freaky, though? Everybody said, like the scientists say, when you die, that you excrete a large amount of DMT. So everybody's seeing all these visions and stuff. It could just be a DMT trip.
Yeah, I've found that was one of those things that was sort of scary. When I thought about it, it's like, okay, there is no afterlife. When we die, and we're all just having that
massive DMT trip. It
seems like an eternity. Yeah, it seems like eternity because, we're outside of time. So does that even matter? If we're having that experience, we're outside of time. Maybe on this plane, that body we're dead in 10 minutes. Actually, they're thinking the brain is active far longer than that. But this organism finally is nothing.
Trippin says, I'm trying to reach that point.
Yeah.
All you got to do is listen to Terrence McKenna. He tells you to take one more hit, and then when you think you can't take another, you take one more big hit, then you get to talk to the alien machine elves. He even speaks their language in some of his videos. You got to listen to it, man. He's really good. Terrence McKenna, I could listen to that guy talk forever. But if you have a massive DMT trip, and you're right, it could, because people dream and I've, it lasted like hours or weeks, but it was only 5 minutes. Well, what do you think a massive DMT trip's going to do to you?
Right. Well, I've had that where I've hit the snooze button, and I'm sure our listeners have too. You hit that snooze button, and it seems like I've had dreams that seem like they were years long, and the most they could have been is 10 minutes because the snooze alarm went back off. So it's...
And then some of the Western occult stuff where, they have the symbolism, and like you were talking about, the Christmas tree and the Santa Claus thing. Yeah, it's St. Nick, but the whole going down the chimney thing and the manna and all this stuff. They're talking about the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. You read that book, The Occult Anatomy of Man. Basically, they're talking about a DMT trip is what it, if you really think about it, right? So, yeah. Maybe that's what it all is. It's just one big trip, one big hallucination. I bet Trippin loves this part of the show.
Yeah, well, I'm watching to, yeah, there you go.
Make sure you got a good babysitter. But, you know, the thing about, I love honesty, like true, humble honesty when someone can just tell you, I don't know. I respect that more than anything in the world. If anybody wants to know what I respect more than that's it. Even Frederick Xavier, like this guy that I think is a great magician and really teaches people about magic and the occult the right way on YouTube. When they asked him about life after death, he talked about, he said, look, I've had out-of-body experiences. I've had synchronicities. I've manifested things in my life. I've done so many things, but I still don't know what happens after you die or if anything happens at all. When somebody's being that honest, I'm following that guy, you know?
Right, because he's not got an answer for everything.
No.
I have a trouble when the people have a answer for everything. I kind of, my BS alarm goes off because, like, even
being on a car lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Every car is great, really. I thought you said this one sucked and that one was good, but now that I'm looking at this one, it's great, you know?
Yeah, it's dry. There's just so much about it. It's like, okay, if I get in this, my mom's a devout Catholic, and we get into these philosophical discussions, it's like, because I don't believe her theology is like she does. But I don't try to rattle her cage or say, hey, you're following a false diet. We're never gonna do that to each other. But it's like, if we die, we have that DMT trip that seems like our heaven or whatever, and that might be, the people that come back and talk about this experience, that might just be the last dying, synapses firing in the brain, and then after that comes oblivion.
Yep.
Well,
or you go back to being
doesn't scare
everything.
me because, well, or you just, you get chucked in the pot and, next time around the piece. I hope that's not what it is. But if it's oblivion, if you die and it's oblivion, well, damn, you're oblivious to oblivion. So there's nothing to fear in oblivion. You won't know you're experiencing oblivion.
Well, I mean,
Like,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just like when you go to sleep and you don't dream, you're not aware of, your eyes were shut. It was black. You had no experience, no conscious recollection of anything. You woke up. Well, if death is oblivion, it's like that point where you close your eyes and there's nothing. So
Or it
what's
could be
the fear in that?
unicorns and fairies and elves and unicorns.
Yeah.
Right?
I hope it's like eternal rock and roll. I just hope it's like I can play any song I've ever wanted to with the ultimate jam band and like trading licks with Jimmy Page.
That might actually be what you experience. But we got to get out of here. Thanks for coming on, Eric. I know you're about to. By the way, anybody that's still listening on the Fringe FM, if there's still more live programming coming on, the S4 is coming up next. They're going to be on there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys still keep listening. There's still more live programming to come on. Tonight we talked to Marla Friesen. In the third hour, we kind of just hung out with our scientist, Eric Markham. Eric, thanks for hanging out with us in the third hour, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Joe. Appreciate
No problem. Next Saturday, I believe Ronnie LeBlanc is going to be coming. We're going to be talking about Monsterland, I think his new podcast. Pretty interesting show that's going to be. We'll see you guys next Saturday night. Stay tuned for S4.
Darkest of our days, and I crossed all the lines we had drawn, cut off the ties we had formed, told all the lies to myself, while sleepwalking through it all. Crossing, when they found me all alone, they said we need someone who needs answers.